Hello, hello, hello. And let's take a look at a really great tool that it's in Krea, that it's Krea Edit. So let's say that you have an image that has all the right spaces and compositions, but you just need to change some elements. If you are familiar with something with Photoshop's Generative Fill, this is pretty much the same, but without the hindrance that is Adobe Firefly and all the potential of Flux image generation. So to access Krea Edit, you can choose from here, the upper bar, and go into Edit, or if you are accessing from the home page, you can just go under Generate and select Edit. The edit screens, like all of the screens on Krea, responds to the same logic. You have your main input in the middle, you have your generations sessions history at the left, and you can either work when you are editing an image from an image that you upload from your computer, and you can also work from a generated asset with the same Krea that it's stored inside your gallery. And they all work pretty much the same. So let's select any of the assets that we have previously generated. I have these three little dots on the image that we had previously had. I can just zoom out and then just open here. And pretty much like Photoshop, generate the rest of this missing picture. As you can see, most of the times generations are very, very fast because this is most likely using Flux. The next step to do generation is that you can also redo your generation if you think that you need to have another go at this, or you can do some targeted edits. You can also revert on generation because at the right, if at the left you have your generation sessions, at the right you have your generation history, so you can always revert to a previous state. Let's go back to this first state and let's see what happens when we want to do targeted editing. So you have here, for example, change region. Change region allows us to either select a space of the image to change something. We can also paint over the space of the image that we want to change something. And finally, it allows us to automatically segment and generate something on that space. So let's, in this case, do a region change for this face and let's make it accurate. So if I go here and I got to prompt, there are two things that I can add to my prompting. I can add an image prompt. For example, I could just add a photo of something and then ask for that to be referenced. Or I could use one of my trained subjects or trained styles. So for example, I have this model of my face trained. I'm going to add style and I'm going to go to like bald guy with glasses and a beard, but I'm gonna increase the influence of my face and let's generate and wait for it to put the right face in place. And like one of the really good things that Krea Edit has is that it's somehow very context aware. Like you can see that it automatically matches the style of the rest of the picture, the tone, the color, the temperature, and so on. And even if you ask for very random things, it does a very good job of integrating them. For example, let's go with something very, very specific. Let's erase this. Let's select the brush and let's make this line right here. And now go blue satchel. You know, like the queens, the beauty queens and so on. And I'm going to use this time an image prompt to influence the generation. And I have this image of a satchel right here. Let's see what the model does. And as you can see, quick and easy, it added a satchel where I asked for because I crossed the leg and I crossed everything else and so on. So you can see piece by piece how to do a very intentional generation. Krea Edit, it's like incredibly useful for stuff like this. So I'm going to get an example here that I made when I was trying to do a generation with multiple characters on a scene. I generated this image with other methods that we're going to see on other Krea tools. This very intentional overhead angle, but I wanted to put my face on the place of this guy. Of course, remember, generation is not magic. Sometimes you're going to get some errors. And I got some funky things like this. But eventually, I got like the right proper angle of the face. And then I did this, of course, doing the same thing that you have seen me doing. Selecting that area, using the custom model, prompting away, and then I did it for the little robot behind, and I got this image. This is very useful to, for example, get a very intentional composition done with image generation with something like ChatGPT Image 1, and then coming here to retouch characters, or just to simply retouch an image to get very intentional about what it should go in. The last thing that you can do is the options of cutting objects. Just as the segmentation, I could just take this dog, take it out, generate the missing space. It's probably going to generate something in the space of that dog. And you can also add images. Just as you saw me like using an image reference to add something to the composition, I could just go add image, and let's select this little Pomeranian with a suit. And I could just add this little guy somewhere. Let's say it's gonna be here among the other guys. Generate, and it's gonna find a way to integrate it into the photo. You can see quickly how custom this can get. And boom, little guy got integrated into the image. Of course, the most amazing thing that I showed you is like the context awareness of the editor. Like it understands the style, it understands what is going on. And when you add something, it doesn't feel like feels like using chat. It doesn't feel like using Photoshop's generative fill, where usually the generations rarely have to do something with the general image, but it's very aware of what's going on around. And here I have more examples of things that can be done. For example, here, let's check this generation history. Because I was testing even like what will happen in a very low light situation. This is just a selfie I took with a friend, an image that I took with the front camera. As you can see, that is very low quality. And I started going like, how about I add some aliens just because? And you can see that when it generated the image, it even matched the fine grain of the low quality, low light picture to make this thing that got generated here feel like a part of the photo. So Krea Edit, it's an incredibly powerful tool that you can use to just take the images right where they need to go. Remember, you can always change a region, just paint over something. Sorry. You can always select a region, paint over something, select magically, let's say a box here. You can either use the style for a trained subject or add an image. Let's just add this little creepy birthday boy. And then just prompt for something. And the generation will match everything that it's missing. It will match the style. It will match the grain. It will match all of the stuff that it's going on in the picture. Incredibly useful. Totally recommended. Oh my God, there is the blue face. Oh my. Oh my, no. Oh my God. One thing to be aware of is that when you use an image reference, it's never a one-to-one copy of what you get. You get trained models for that. Like for example, if you need a one-to-one copy of something inserted into an image, you need to train a custom model. We have a workflow for that, and that implies other stuff like curating a data set for training and so on. We also have workflows for curating data sets. But if you use just an image reference, like a single image, most likely you will get like a close reference of something that it works. So it's better for like when you have a very specific thing that you need to insert, but like you won't get it just from texting. Like for example, a satchel like this. So yes. Go ahead, experiment with it. It's very affordable in some sense because it's just Flux image generation, but very targeted in painting and outpainting.